Have you ever wondered, why do we have to struggle with waste disposal when there are hundreds of natural incinerators waiting at temperatures of 1,200 degrees Celsius? Volcanoes are essentially massive pits filled with molten lava hot enough to melt almost anything. And with over 250 million tons of waste produced annually just in the United States, it seems like nature has gifted us the ultimate waste incinerator. Sounds like a genius solution to clean up the planet, right? But trust me, the outcome is not as smooth as you might think. In fact, it could turn into a disaster worse than pollution itself. Let's start exploring this truth. Across the entire planet, there are only 1,500 active volcanoes capable of handling waste. However, their geographic distribution is a deadly trap. These fiery pits are located in desolate, isolated areas far removed from the breath of life. Transporting waste to these locations requires a massive, transnational, and transcontinental logistics system. This distance is the first barrier, preventing a crazy idea from ever getting off the ground. The astonishment grows as the curious realize they are playing with fire. To incinerate waste, humans need shield volcanoes with slow and stable lava lakes. But the truth is, these volcanoes are extremely rare. Instead, Earth is dominated by stratovolcanoes, relatives that have extreme, violent tendencies. Their structure accumulates such high-pressure hot gases that it's suffocating. Throwing waste into the mouth of a stratovolcano is not waste management. It's detonating a bomb straight into a massive pressure cooker beneath the Earth. A chain explosion is bound to happen, destroying everything in its wake. When the financial and environmental numbers are brought to light, they reveal a plan for collective suicide. Consider this harsh reality. Just one country, the US, generates 254 million tons of waste each year. To move this enormous volume of trash to 1,500 remote locations worldwide, humanity would need to mobilize millions of transport ships, heavy trucks, and super heavy aircraft. The cost for this logistical chain is an unimaginable figure, capable of crushing and completely collapsing the economy of any superpower. But that's not even the worst part. An atmospheric disaster is waiting at the shipping ports. The carbon emissions from millions of engines burning fuel every day to transport. The waste will suffocate the atmosphere faster than any landfill ever could. Instead of cleaning the planet, humans would be directly pumping an uncontrollable amount of emissions into the living space. And it doesn't stop there. The interaction between waste and lava doesn't result in a clean disappearance. When waste is burned inside a volcano, it releases tons of toxic gases, like dioxins, sulfur, and concentrated acid compounds. These deadly chemical clouds will be spewed back into the atmosphere through fissures, creating acid rains that devastate the surrounding ecosystems. This action is about crushing life on this planet with the very waste we create. Don't let ignorance turn you into the victim of the next environmental disaster. Hit like immediately if you've just realized that humanity is standing on the brink of a suicide plan. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next real reports about the survival of our planet. When the harsh truths about geography and economics send a shiver through the crowd, an even more brutal reality begins to emerge right at the mouth of the death trap. Those dreaming of a clean waste disposal solution are confronted with an environment that immediately annihilates life. Before a bag of trash even leaves the hand, anyone standing there has already stepped into the door of death. The mouth of the volcano is not an empty pit. It is a space thick with lethal toxic gases, ready to suffocate any creature in an instant. Red-hot lava blasts continuously, and rocks are ejected at bullet-like speeds, directly threatening human life. Even more terrifying is the extreme heat of the magma, ranging from 700 degrees Celsius to 1,200 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the human body would bubble up and vanish without a trace if it accidentally slipped down. It's a complete obliteration with no chance of survival. The real horror begins when a cold object touches the intensely flowing lava. Dumping waste into a lava lake is no different than detonating a bomb. The surface of the lava lake is extremely sensitive, and breaking this membrane will trigger a chain explosion of immense force. In 2002, researchers in Ethiopia demonstrated this by throwing a 30-kilogram bag of trash into the Erta Ale volcano. The result was immediate, earth-shattering explosions. In Hawaii, falling rocks pushed lava columns as high as 85 meters into the air. Look at those numbers and imagine the catastrophic impact when tons of waste are dumped in at once. These explosions release acid-laden steam at extreme pressures, capable of shredding equipment and causing severe chemical burns to anyone working nearby. Even when this insane disposal process ends, death lingers in the air and land in its most brutal forms. Incinerating waste inside a volcano has no air filtration system. All the most toxic elements from the waste are released directly into the atmosphere, creating uncontrollable streams of poisonous gases. The reality is that magma cannot completely melt every material. Pieces of waste that haven't fully burned over time will be ejected during later eruptions. The entire surrounding landscape will be heavily polluted with debris and chemicals. This becomes a genocidal disaster if the object thrown in is nuclear waste. Radioactive material will travel with the lava and ash, spreading over thousands of kilometers, turning the land into a nameless graveyard for eternity. The initial curiosity of the crowd has now been completely replaced by a suffocating feeling, as the harsh truths about the ecosystem come to light. Turning volcanoes into waste incinerators is not a salvation, but an act that triggers a widespread ecological crisis, pushing life to the brink of extinction. As observers realize the deadly difference between technology and nature, they see the stark contrast. Unlike modern waste-to-energy plants, which have strict air filtration systems, volcanoes are open entities with no barriers. The entire process of burning millions of tons of plastic waste, heavy metals, and toxic chemicals directly releases deadly gases into the atmosphere. Just the 254 million tons of waste from a country like the United States each year will create a massive amount of emission. These gases directly attack the atmosphere, severely increasing the greenhouse effect and accelerating climate change to an irreversible pace. Lava is not just hot, it's extremely aggressive. When waste, which always contains moisture or water, comes into contact with magma, it instantly triggers explosive steam eruptions filled with concentrated acid. The force of these explosions can send columns of lava and toxic ash shooting as high as 85 meters into the air. These deadly substances do not disappear. They fall back down, directly contaminating water sources and soil within a vast radius around the volcano. Every living creature in this area will endure destruction from acid rains and sharp, toxic dust. A volcano can erupt at any time, spreading radioactive ash thousands of miles through the wind and water sources. A global-scale biological disaster will unfold, leaving mutations and death from within cells that humanity will never be able to reverse. The crowd begins to realize that throwing waste into nature is not the only option, but every alternative comes with harsh, real-world parameters and a stark deterrent. Instead of abandoning waste to an uncontrollable natural lava pit, humanity is operating waste-to-energy plants. 1 ton of household waste can generate between 500 to 600 kilowatt of electricity. With the 254 million tons of waste Americans produce annually, this energy potential is enormous if processed correctly. In stark contrast to the reckless release of toxins by volcanoes, modern incinerators are equipped with high-tech filtration systems that thoroughly remove fine dust and dioxins before releasing anything into the environment. This is a direct battle between technical control and the chaos of nature, where thermal energy is harnessed to heat and generate electricity rather than burning the planet for no reason. The fear of a planet overwhelmed by waste drives humanity toward a more decisive solution: the circular economy. Letting waste be swallowed by lava is an incredibly wasteful consumption of raw material resources. Recycling materials is the only way to prevent resource depletion. Humanity cuts off the costly logistics chain and eliminates the vast emissions from long-distance transport vehicles. Reducing the carbon footprint locally becomes the final barrier preventing the collapse of the ecosystem. Forcing every individual to face the reality that minimizing waste is the only way to survive. Curiosity finally turns to an unimaginable scenario, sending waste into outer space. While this idea promises to completely remove waste from Earth's ecosystem, it brings forth a new terror. The cost of launching rockets today is thousands of dollars per kilogram of waste, a number large enough to bankrupt the world. Even worse is the risk of rocket explosions in the atmosphere. If an accident were to occur, tons of waste would turn into chemical and physical pollution rains. What do you think is the most effective way to dispose of waste? Please let me know in the comments.